Have you ever found yourself giving everything in a relationship only to feel invisible in return? You prioritize him, adjust your schedule, and even put your dreams on hold, yet his response feels distant, or worse, indifferent. Perhaps you've caught yourself wondering, am I not enough? Picture this. You send a heartfelt message, and hours later, his reply is short and distracted. It stings, doesn't it? You might begin overthinking, questioning every move, and hoping he'll step up. But deep down, you know something has to change. Here's the truth. The issue isn't about him ignoring you. It's about reclaiming your power and emotional independence. The good news? You have the ability to transform not only your relationships but also the way you see yourself. In today's video, we'll reveal 7 Stoic acts that have the power to shift the dynamics in your relationships completely. These aren't manipulative tricks. They're timeless principles grounded in self-respect, emotional resilience, and confidence. Imagine living a life where your happiness doesn't depend on someone else, but radiates from within. We'll show you how to walk away with confidence, build emotional independence, and even prioritize your time and attention so he sees your worth without you having to prove it. Share your own stories or tips in the comments. Your experience might just inspire someone else to take that step toward empowerment. Ready to begin? Let's dive in. 1. Live a life you love. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of purpose, excitement, and fulfillment, feeling truly alive, not because of someone else's actions or validation, but because of the life you've created for yourself. When you live a life that you love, something magical happens. You no longer chase affection or approval. Instead, you radiate confidence, independence, and joy. To a man, this makes you irresistible, not because you need him, but because you choose to share your incredible world with him. Now let's bring this closer to reality. Think about a woman who gave up her passion to focus entirely on a relationship. She set aside her love for music, stopped spending time with friends, and even skipped opportunities for personal growth, hoping her dedication would deepen the connection. Instead, she felt emptier, lost, and unnoticed. What would change if she reclaimed her passions and rebuilt her identity outside of the relationship? Imagine her rediscovering her love for playing the piano, filling her weekends with lessons and local performances. Picture her reconnecting with friends who bring out her best self. Not only does she feel alive again, but her energy shifts. Her partner now sees her in a new light. Strong, captivating, and self-assured. This is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics teach us that happiness is internal. It's not dependent on fleeting emotions, external circumstances, or the behavior of others. Epictetus said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Your passions, purpose, and growth are within your control." A relationship, no matter how strong, can never replace your need for personal fulfillment. So, how can you embody this in your life? Start by asking yourself, what have I put aside for the sake of others? Is it a hobby, a dream, or even just time for yourself? Bring it back. Dedicate even a small part of your day to something that excites you. Take up that art class you've always wanted to try. Begin the fitness journey you've postponed. When you prioritize your passions, your energy transforms. You become whole, complete, and radiant. A man will notice this shift. He will feel the difference in your presence, the way you glow with purpose and confidence. But here's the most important part. Even if he doesn't notice or respond as you hope, your happiness remains intact because it comes from within. This is the ultimate freedom Stoicism promises. Now imagine this. You're at a dinner party, talking passionately about a new project you've started. You're smiling, laughing, and fully present. People are drawn to you, not because of what you're saying, but because of how you feel. A man watching this isn't just attracted to your beauty, he's captivated by your energy. He sees someone who has a life filled with meaning, and he wants to be a part of it. This isn't about pretending to be busy or filling your schedule with distractions. It's about aligning with what makes your heart sing. It's about creating a life so full and fulfilling that you're no longer looking to anyone else to complete you. When you do this, you naturally inspire others to rise to meet your level of self-worth. Remember, living a life you love doesn't just make you more attractive to others, it transforms how you see yourself. You step into a version of yourself that is fearless, focused, and full of possibility. And that energy is not only magnetic, but also deeply empowering. So, take a moment to reflect. What would it look like to reclaim your passions and rebuild the life you truly want? Begin today, not for anyone else, but for yourself. As the Stoics teach, true happiness comes when you take ownership of what is yours to control. And in doing so, you'll not only attract love, but also become the most confident and fulfilled version of yourself. 2. Prioritize your time and attention. When you prioritize your time and attention, something profound happens. Your energy becomes intentional, focused, and powerful. Imagine shifting from constantly giving your all in a relationship, texting first, arranging plans, and over-investing emotionally, to a state where your time becomes a reflection of your self-worth. He notices. Suddenly, your presence feels more valuable because you're no longer readily available. You're living with purpose, and that makes you captivating. Now picture this. You've spent weeks chasing after his attention, only to feel ignored or undervalued. You keep thinking, maybe if I try harder, he'll finally see how much I care. But instead of feeling closer, you feel drained. What if, instead, you redirected your attention to the things that genuinely matter to you? Your career, hobbies, friendships, everything that makes you feel alive. What would he see then? A woman who is fulfilled, independent, and confident. That shift changes everything. Stoic philosophy teaches us the power of focusing on what we can control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control how someone else values your time, but you can control where you invest it. When you stop chasing and start focusing on your own growth, the dynamic changes. Your energy becomes a gift, not a given. Let's ground this with an example. A woman finds herself in a relationship where she feels like she's always the one keeping things alive. She's the first to call, the one rearranging her schedule to accommodate him, the one putting in all the effort. One day, she decides to stop. Not out of bitterness, but because she realizes her time is precious. She starts spending her weekends volunteering at an animal shelter, something she'd been putting off for months. She signs up for a yoga class and reconnects with friends. Her energy shifts. Now he notices. He starts texting first, asking to meet up, and putting in the effort she always wanted. Why? Because her time now feels scarce, and humans value what isn't readily available. More importantly, she feels happier. Whether or not he steps up, her fulfillment comes from her choices, not his reactions. This is the essence of prioritizing your time and attention. It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about recognizing that your energy is finite and deserves to be invested wisely. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believe that our time is the most valuable resource we have, and wasting it on things outside our control, like seeking validation, only leads to frustration. If you're feeling overlooked or unappreciated in your relationship, ask yourself this: where am I placing my attention? Are you pouring your energy into someone who isn't reciprocating? Or are you using it to build the life you want? Shift your focus. Find the things that make you come alive. Whether it's starting a new project, spending time with loved ones, or diving into a passion you've neglected. When you do this, you'll notice a change not only in how others treat you, but also in how you feel about yourself. Confidence isn't about demanding attention. It's about knowing that your time is valuable and treating it as such. That confidence is magnetic. It draws people in and inspires respect. Picture another moment. You're busy working on a passion project, fully immersed in something that excites you. Your phone buzzes, but instead of dropping everything to reply immediately, you finish what you're doing. Later, when you respond, your energy is calm, collected, and genuine. This subtle act of prioritizing your time signals that you value yourself, and others will follow suit. When you align your energy with your priorities, you create balance. You become someone who gives generously but wisely, someone who invests time in things that bring joy and meaning. This isn't just a strategy for relationships, it's a way of life. You'll feel less drained, more empowered, and deeply connected to your purpose. The next time you feel the urge to overextend yourself, pause. Ask yourself, will this choice bring me closer to the life I want, or am I seeking validation from someone else? When you make decisions from a place of self-respect, you'll find that your relationships become more fulfilling, not because you're chasing after someone, but because you're showing them how much your time is worth. And that's something no one can ignore. 3. Walk away with confidence. There is a quiet strength in being willing to walk away. It's not about anger or revenge, but about recognizing your own worth and refusing to settle for less. When you master this, you shift the dynamics of any relationship. You stop clinging to situations that drain you, and instead create space for something better. To him, it's a wake-up call, a realization that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. To you, it's liberation, a step toward reclaiming your power. Imagine a moment where you felt unappreciated. You tolerated broken promises, dismissive words, or a lack of effort, convincing yourself that staying was better than being alone. Each compromise chipped away at your self-respect. But what if, instead of staying, you calmly expressed your boundaries and left when they weren't honored? He would see not just a partner but a woman of immense strength and clarity. A woman who values herself deeply enough to walk away from anything that doesn't align with her standards. This idea is deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed in the importance of staying true to your principles, no matter the cost. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." When you know your worth, you don't allow external circumstances to dictate your value. Walking away isn't about punishing someone else, it's about staying true to yourself. Think of someone who consistently forgave behavior that crossed her boundaries, hoping things would change. She kept explaining her needs, waiting for a shift that never came. One day, instead of repeating the cycle, she calmly ended the relationship. Her actions weren't driven by anger, but by a firm understanding of her own value. And what happened? The same person who once dismissed her suddenly wanted to meet her standards. But by then, she no longer needed him to. Walking away creates a shift in perception. It reminds the other person that your time and energy are not limitless resources to be taken for granted. More importantly, it reinforces your self-worth. The Stoics would call this living with integrity, acting in alignment with your values rather than being swayed by fear or desire. If you find yourself hesitant to leave a situation where your needs are not being met, consider this. Staying out of fear only prolongs the pain. It traps you in a cycle of dependency and resentment. Leaving doesn't mean you failed. It means you've chosen to prioritize your emotional well-being and open yourself to healthier possibilities. Walking away requires emotional resilience, a quality the Stoics prized above all. They taught that peace comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. Instead of worrying about whether he will change, focus on what you can change, your response. Be clear about your boundaries and stand firm when they are crossed. This isn't about ultimatums, it's about demonstrating that your respect for yourself isn't negotiable. Imagine someone deciding to leave a situation where they weren't valued. At first, it felt terrifying, a leap into uncertainty. But as days passed, the fear was replaced by a sense of freedom. They started rediscovering parts of themselves they had forgotten, their passions, their goals, their joy. And when they crossed paths with their former partner, they were no longer the same. They radiated confidence, not because of revenge or spite, but because they had chosen themselves. Walking away with confidence is one of the most powerful acts of self-love. It's a reminder that your happiness isn't tied to someone else's behavior, but to your ability to honor your own needs. And as difficult as it may feel in the moment, it is always worth it. Stoicism reminds us that we cannot control others' actions, only our own. By choosing to leave what no longer serves you, you embody the strength and clarity that Stoic philosophy teaches. The next time you're faced with the choice to stay or leave, pause. Ask yourself, am I staying because it aligns with my values, or because I fear what leaving might mean? When you choose yourself, you'll find that the path forward, while challenging, is also freeing, and the world will respond. Not because you demanded it, but because your confidence will speak for itself. 4. Maintain an air of mystery. Revealing too much too soon can diminish the spark in any relationship. When you share every detail, every emotion, and every thought without pacing, you strip away the intrigue that makes someone curious about you. On the other hand, when you hold back just enough, Letting your personality and story unfold gradually, you invite a deeper emotional investment. For him, it feels like unlocking a mystery, peeling back layers of someone who is fascinating, complex, and worth pursuing. Imagine a relationship where everything is laid bare from the start. It feels predictable, almost stagnant. Now think about what happens when you allow conversations to flow naturally, with pauses and moments where he wonders about you. He starts to pay closer attention, not because you're withholding, but because you're revealing yourself authentically, in pieces, like chapters of a captivating novel. It's human nature to value what isn't instantly accessible, and this is what keeps his curiosity alive. The Stoics often spoke of restraint as a virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not necessary to burden oneself with every thought." This applies to relationships as well. Self-restraint in how much you share isn't about manipulation, but about preserving your energy and creating space for others to meet you halfway. Your mystery isn't a tactic, it's an invitation for connection to grow naturally over time. Think of someone who used to over-explain herself in relationships, sharing every insecurity, every hope, and every detail about her past. It wasn't that she was inauthentic, it was that she didn't leave room for curiosity. One day, she decided to take a different approach. She started focusing on sharing her present joys, her love of hiking, her passion for photography, and allowed deeper topics to emerge naturally through mutual trust. Her partner noticed the change. He started asking more thoughtful questions, wanting to learn more about her world. She wasn't less open, she was simply intentional about how she shared her life. When you maintain an air of mystery, you give someone the opportunity to earn your trust and understanding. You demonstrate that your life is full, rich, and vibrant on its own, and that he can become a part of it, not the center of it. This is the balance Stoicism encourages. Knowing what to share, when to share it, and how much energy to give. It's about valuing your inner world enough to let others approach it with care. If you find yourself tempted to overshare, ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve? Often the urge comes from a need for validation or fear of being misunderstood. But when you step back and allow space for curiosity, you give the relationship room to breathe and evolve. This is the art of pacing, letting the connection deepen without rushing to define it. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone new. Instead of listing every hobby or recounting every past relationship, you mention how you've recently taken up painting. You share how it's been a relaxing outlet, but leave out the details of how you got started. He hears this and becomes intrigued, asking follow-up questions. By leaving space for curiosity, you're not hiding, you're inviting him to engage with your world. Maintaining mystery doesn't mean being secretive or guarded. It's about sharing selectively, with confidence and intention. It's about understanding that your value isn't in how much you reveal, but in how meaningful those revelations are. A relationship grows strongest when both people feel a sense of discovery, when there's room for exploration and depth over time. Stoicism teaches us that we are not obligated to expose every part of ourselves to everyone. As Epictetus suggested, self-control is a form of freedom. By choosing what to share, you protect your energy and ensure that the right people invest in truly knowing you. This isn't withholding, it's honoring the process of connection. The next time you feel the need to explain every detail or open up too quickly, pause. Ask yourself if what you're sharing builds trust or simply fills silence. When you embrace the subtle power of pacing, you create a dynamic where your depth unfolds naturally. You will feel more engaged, more drawn in, and more invested. And most importantly, you'll feel more confident, knowing that your story is worth sharing at the right time, with the right person. 5. Create space for him to pursue you. When you give him the space to pursue you, you create a dynamic that naturally deepens the relationship. It allows him to take initiative, to show his effort, and to feel the satisfaction of earning your attention. If you're always the one initiating, texting first, planning dates, or solving problems, it can feel imbalanced. He may appreciate your effort, but over time, he might stop valuing it. By stepping back, you allow the relationship to breathe, to reset, and to grow in mutual respect. For him, this shift can be transformative. He begins to notice the absence of your constant effort, and it triggers a desire to step up. Humans are wired to value what requires effort. When you stop doing all the work, he feels the need to fill the gap. This is not about playing games, it's about creating balance. Your worth isn't tied to how much you give, it's tied to how you value yourself. In Stoic philosophy, there's a powerful principle: what is within our control versus what is not. You cannot force someone to pursue you or reciprocate your energy, but you can control how much effort you invest. By stepping back, you demonstrate self-control and emotional independence, two qualities that are deeply attractive and respected. Think of someone who felt like they were always holding the relationship together. They were the first to send messages, plan weekends, and initiate conversations. After realizing how draining this was, they decided to pause. They started focusing on their own life, spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, and enjoying their independence. At first, it felt uncomfortable. But then, something shifted. Their partner began reaching out more, asking to spend time together, and taking the lead. The dynamic transformed because the balance of effort was restored. This isn't about manipulation or testing someone's interest. It's about recognizing the value of space in any relationship. When you stop filling every silence or solving every problem, you give the other person a chance to step forward. Stoicism teaches us the importance of detachment, not in a cold or distant way, but in a way that frees us from overthinking and overinvesting in things outside our control. If you're used to being the one who always texts first or keeps the relationship moving, it can feel strange to stop. But that pause is powerful. It's not about waiting in silence. It's about filling that time with things that fulfill you. Maybe you finally take that pottery class you've been thinking about, or schedule a weekend trip with friends. As your energy shifts back to yourself, he will sense it. He might start wondering why he hasn't heard from you as much, or realize how much he misses your presence. This isn't because you're playing hard to get, it's because you've created space for him to appreciate what he might have taken for granted. And even if he doesn't step up, you've invested that time into yourself, which is never wasted. When you create space, you also protect yourself from overextending emotionally. It's easy to get caught in a cycle of giving and giving, hoping to receive the same in return. But relationships are strongest when both people bring equal effort. If you're always the one chasing, it's a sign that the balance needs to shift. Stoicism reminds us to act with intention, not desperation. Step back, not to manipulate, but to allow the natural flow of the relationship to reveal its true strength. Imagine how liberating it feels to focus on your growth instead of overanalyzing every interaction. You're no longer waiting by the phone, hoping for his next message. You're living your life, pursuing your passions, and allowing the relationship to evolve organically. When he reaches out, it's because he genuinely wants to, not because he feels pressured. That kind of connection is stronger and more fulfilling for both of you. The next time you feel the urge to chase or overgive, pause. Take a step back and redirect that energy towards something that brings you joy. Allow him to pursue you, to meet you halfway. In doing so, you create a relationship built on mutual effort and respect. A connection where you feel valued, not because you're constantly giving, but because you've shown him that your presence is worth earning. And in that space, the most meaningful relationships thrive. 6. Build emotional independence. Emotional independence is not about being cold or detached. It's about grounding your happiness within yourself instead of tying it to someone else's actions. When you master this, you create a sense of inner peace that radiates outward, making you more confident and magnetic. For him, this shift is profound. He sees a woman who isn't seeking constant reassurance, who isn't swayed by every change in his mood, and who holds her own no matter what. This confidence draws him closer because it shows you value yourself deeply. Imagine the alternative. If your emotional state rises and falls based on whether he texts back or seems engaged, he feels the weight of carrying your happiness. Over time, that pressure becomes exhausting and the connection weakens. But when your joy comes from within, your passions, your sense of purpose, and your self-worth, it frees the relationship from unnecessary tension. He respects and admires your emotional resilience because it shows strength. Stoicism offers a guiding principle here. Your happiness is within your control. Epictetus said, "Man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them." When you allow external events like his behavior to dictate your emotions, you give away your power. True emotional independence comes from reclaiming that power, from knowing that your worth isn't determined by anyone else. Take, for example, someone who used to spiral into anxiety whenever her partner seemed distant. She would overthink every interaction, wondering what she had done wrong. One day, she decided to approach things differently. Instead of texting him repeatedly or seeking reassurance, she paused. She reminded herself that her worth wasn't tied to his responses. She went for a run, finished a book she loved, and called a friend to catch up. When he eventually reached out, she responded warmly, but without desperation. He noticed the shift. She wasn't clinging to his attention anymore, and that made her presence feel lighter, more appealing. This approach isn't about ignoring your feelings, it's about managing them wisely. Emotional independence means recognizing when fear or insecurity is driving your actions and choosing to respond with calm and clarity instead. The Stoics would call this mastering your emotions rather than being mastered by them. If you're struggling with overthinking or seeking validation, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, am I reacting to the situation or am I choosing how to respond? When you pause and ground yourself, you reclaim control. Instead of texting him out of anxiety, you redirect your energy towards something that fulfills you. Over time, this practice builds confidence, and that confidence changes how others perceive you. Think about how freeing it feels to focus on your passions instead of his responses. Maybe you start a new hobby, spend more time with loved ones, or simply enjoy moments of quiet reflection. As you do this, he notices. Your energy shifts from seeking to sharing, from needing validation to offering connection. That shift is powerful because it shows that your happiness is self-sustained. Stoicism reminds us that life is full of unpredictable challenges, and relationships are no different. There will be times when he pulls back, acts distant, or doesn't meet your expectations. Emotional independence allows you to navigate these moments without losing your balance. Instead of spiraling, you accept what's outside your control and focus on what you can influence, your own actions, thoughts, and feelings. When you embody this, you become a source of calm in the relationship. He feels safe knowing that your happiness doesn't depend on him, and that safety fosters deeper trust and connection. You, in turn, feel freer because you're no longer riding an emotional roller coaster dictated by his actions. The next time you feel your emotions rising, pause, breathe. Remind yourself that your worth is unshakable, whether or not he calls, texts, or shows up the way you hoped. Focus on something that brings you joy. A project, a workout, or time spent with someone who uplifts you. When he sees this grounded, self-assured version of you, he'll be drawn in, not out of obligation, but out of genuine admiration. And even if he doesn't, you'll find peace in knowing that your happiness is yours to create. Emotional independence doesn't just transform your relationships, it transforms your life. It allows you to approach love from a place of strength rather than need, and that shift changes everything. When you're fulfilled on your own, the love you share becomes richer, freer, and more meaningful. And that is a foundation that lasts. 7. Set and uphold strong boundaries. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to command respect and create balance in your relationships. When you clearly define what you will and won't accept, you show that you value yourself and expect others to do the same. For him, boundaries signal strength. They tell him you are a woman who knows her worth, who won't compromise her values for the sake of convenience. This doesn't push him away. Instead, it draws him closer. He begins to see the relationship as a partnership built on mutual respect, not a one-sided dynamic. When boundaries are absent, the balance tilts. Without realizing it, you may find yourself tolerating behaviors that leave you feeling frustrated or undervalued. You might not even notice that his actions are crossing lines because nothing has been communicated. But when you start to set clear boundaries, his perception changes. He becomes more aware of how his behavior affects you and begins to step up to meet your expectations. Stoicism teaches us the importance of acting in alignment with our values. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Boundaries are your compass. They guide you in staying true to your principles. By setting them, you're not building walls to keep people out. You're creating pathways for healthier and more fulfilling relationships. Take, for example, someone who often felt hurt by last-minute canceled plans. She would let it slide every time, hoping her patience would show how much she cared. But each cancellation chipped away at her confidence, leaving her feeling overlooked. One day, she decided to approach the situation differently. Calmly, she communicated her feelings. "I value consistency, and I feel disrespected when plans are canceled without notice. I hope we can work on this, but if it happens again, I may need to step back." That boundary changed the dynamic. Her partner began respecting her time more, planning ahead, and showing up consistently. This shift wasn't about control or punishment. It was about valuing herself enough to ask for what she needed. Boundaries are not about forcing someone to change. They're about giving them the choice to rise to your standards or step away. And in that choice lies the beauty of true connection. A relationship where both people respect and support each other's needs. If you find it hard to set boundaries, it may feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry about seeming too demanding or risking conflict. However, avoiding boundaries only leads to resentment and exhaustion. Instead, think of boundaries as acts of kindness to yourself and to others. They clarify expectations and prevent misunderstandings, allowing relationships to flourish. Imagine how empowering it feels to say, "This is what I need," and to follow through when those needs aren't met. When you enforce boundaries with calmness and confidence, you create a dynamic of mutual respect. He will feel challenged, not in a combative way, but in a way that inspires him to be a better partner. And you will feel liberated knowing you've taken control of your emotional well-being. Stoicism emphasizes the power of self-control, and boundaries are a perfect example of this in action. Instead of reacting emotionally to a situation, you take a step back, assess what matters to you, and communicate it. You focus on what you can control, your actions and decisions, rather than trying to force someone else to behave differently. Next time you feel your boundaries being tested, pause. Reflect on what's important to you and articulate it with clarity. Use I statements to express your feelings without assigning blame. For example, "I feel unappreciated when my time isn't respected," rather than, "You never value my time." This shifts the conversation from confrontation to collaboration, making it easier for the other person to understand and respond positively. When you uphold your boundaries, you also inspire trust. He knows that you mean what you say and that your actions align with your words. This consistency builds a foundation of respect and admiration. And while enforcing boundaries may feel challenging at the moment, it ultimately creates a stronger, healthier relationship for both of you. Boundaries are not about control, they are about self-respect. They remind others how to treat you and remind you of your value. When you set them with intention and confidence, you elevate your relationships to a new level. And whether he meets your standards or not, you will find peace in knowing you've honored yourself. That peace is priceless, and it is yours to protect. As we close, take a moment to reflect on the powerful lessons we've explored together. Each of the 7 Stoic-inspired acts is not just a strategy for improving your relationships, but a pathway to becoming the most confident, fulfilled version of yourself. From living a life you love to setting and upholding strong boundaries, these principles are about reclaiming your worth and finding peace in your strength. Remember, transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's in the small, intentional steps you take each day. Practicing emotional independence, maintaining an air of mystery, or creating space for someone to pursue you, all of these require consistency and mindfulness. But with every effort, you'll find yourself growing more grounded, self-assured, and deeply connected to what truly matters. Stoicism teaches us that the journey inward is where real strength lies. When you focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your energy, you unlock a freedom that no external circumstance can take away. This is the kind of confidence that not only transforms relationships, but also brings lasting joy and resilience into your life. Now, I encourage you to take one of these lessons and put it into practice today. Whether it's setting a boundary you've been avoiding, or simply taking time for a passion you've neglected, start small and stay consistent. As you do, Share your story in the comments below. What changes are you noticing? How has this shift impacted your relationships and your inner peace? Your experiences could inspire someone else on their journey, reminding them that they too have the power to transform their lives. Let's grow together, one step at a time. And remember, the greatest relationship you'll ever have is the one you build with yourself.